Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Car Dealership Guy Industry Spotlight. I'm your host, Sam Dark. Coming up today, check out tips for general managers to manage AI as a team member, how Rohrman solved the ultimate online CTA challenge, and how a quick path to the best price increases overall engagement and close rates. Joining me today, Jeremy Noling, Sales and Digital Retailing Director, Rohrman Auto Group, and Matt Muilenburg, Chief Product Officer of Impel. Props to Impel for supporting today's content. Now, let's get into it. So, Jeremy, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Rohrman.
Hey, Jeremy Noling, Sales and Digital Retailing Director with the Rohrman Automotive Group. What do I do with Rohrman? Anything tech related, sales process, accountability, deep diving, just finding opportunities, looking for deals and digging for gold. That's what I like to claim my fame to.
Well, and welcome back, Jeremy. You've been on the show before. It's fun to have conversations with people over and over again who are doing great things. And you and Rohrman are famous for being very, very deliberate and very specific about building your tech stack. Like you're very forward thinking, and you've shared a lot of that. Ryan has, and you have on this show and other shows. So let's talk about something we talked about in the green room, which is in automotive right now, it feels like customers are wanting more than they ever have before. More communication points, more touch point, more communication that's transparent, consistent, non-message. Talk to me a little bit about what you see in that demand kind of or need from customers and what burden that puts on dealerships to meet that need.
Yeah, Sam, so great question. One thing I'll say is that, with consumers, we are consumers as well. And, when we want an answer, we don't want to wait 15 minutes or 2 hours or half the day. And, I think that, with the Impel product that we're using, it's allowed us to get that answer to that consumer super fast. And, it doesn't matter whether it's about an appointment, availability, a feature, additional photos, a service appointment. I mean, I could go on and on, but that is how AI is working for us at the Rohrman Automotive Group. And again, it's a very thorough, consistent message that we work with performance managers and our people on to drive that experience.
So let's back up just a little bit and let's talk about what automotive looked like before AI and as AI was entering into our sphere, right? Because you're forward thinking. You're in a place where a lot of dealers aren't, right? You've embraced it. Some haven't. Right now, the demand and the need from customers for that transparent, consistent, educated communication puts a lot of burden on you to staff a dealership, right? In fact, I think you said really to be able to meet a basic level of communication with customers, you need like 7 to 10 BDC agents. What do you think you need in today's world to be able to meet customer demand for communication?
AI. So I think you need an intelligent platform that understands how to be very transparent and thorough with responses to drive the engagement from the consumer. And so, yes, I am going to date myself, but I remember the days when BDCs weren't even a topic of discussion. And then all of a sudden in the mid 2000s, we all say everybody needs a BDC department. And what does it look like? Well, I don't know, but we need people just to make phone calls and send out emails all day long. And what are they going to talk about? I don't know. They just need to follow up with all the opportunities that we're putting in the CRM. And so I remember at times where I was at, we had 7 BDC agents and we started with 1. And one thing we never really increased was the amount of salespeople on the floor. It was always, we've got leads and we've got customers. Somebody needs to follow up with them. And so we thought that the fix was always hiring a BD agent, just like everybody else in the industry. That's what it was. And now you fast forward to 2022 and we learned we don't need BDC agents. We need a technology that can help with the cadence and know how to be very thorough with the consumers, but work alongside the salesperson to drive that ultimate consumer experience, because AI is not going to replace people. Okay. Yeah. People that don't know how to work alongside AI is what's going to replace the people. And, I think that's one thing that I think we've done really well is the handoff and managing the AI. through onboarding the proper way of introducing AI.
So, Jeremy, take us back to pre-AI. Before you turned the AI agents on, what did a typical lead journey look like in your organization, right? So digital leads created, it's there, it's in the inbox. How did that get handled?
You would have a BD agent that would try to do the phone call, email, and text to the consumer. And they would maybe try that once in the morning and then maybe swing around, try again in the afternoon. And then they would continue to repeat that process every day. And they may be touching the customer at the wrong time, or they may be saying the wrong message, or they may not be identifying the proper source of how that consumer came into the CRM. And in addition to not only working the internet leads, these folks are also working your walk-in customers, and they're answering phone ups at the same time. So for them, it's a little overwhelming. And what type of experience does a BD agent truly have if you don't onboard the right way?
Yeah, that is true. Consistency with people is tough, especially when Glenn Lundy talked on the show. He talked about BDC agents should be frontline sales. As soon as they're as good as frontline sales, you want to bring them to the front line to sell, because that is such a needed task, right? So how are you setting up different lead types inside these journeys, and how do they perform versus, so bring us into AI now. So AI obviously starts engaging with your customers, answering phones, sending text messages, engaging with them where they want to be. You went to Impel for that AI. Why Impel instead of any one of the other number of companies out there?
First, I'll add something to the point that you just mentioned. I went to Dan Cummins Chevy. I drove down there through Glenn Lundy's success, and I seen his army of BD agents that he had at the time. And so now, fast forward, now it's about arming the AI with how to follow up through specific sources. Because Sam, you could put in a lead about a KBB lead or a trade pending lead of selling your vehicle. Matt could put in a lead of he just built his deal online through our digital retailing tool. The first response on both of those customers is completely different. But the way that we've trained our people is to reach out and try to just schedule an appointment. So I'm not solving either one of your problems. I'm just asking, when can you come in, or just trying to get you on the phone. And through our success with Impel, it's been about identify by specific source. And let's customize something to build it unique to the journey that the consumer is on. So that first response hits you right where you're at versus walking you backwards.
So give me an example of that. So KBB ad, that's a different lead source. It comes in. How is the response at Rohrman with your AI tool different than cars.com or cars?
Yeah. So if there's a consumer, we're with trade pending, but if a consumer is on there through trade pending and they go to our 15-second appraisal, that's going to come in and we're going to acknowledge, hey, Sam, it looks like you're trying to sell your 2024 Honda Pilot. Please let us know if you'd like to, schedule an appointment to do a final evaluation on that car. But what we're doing is we're actually, we let the AI know that you're responding to a customer who submitted a form to sell their vehicle via trade pending or KBB, and acknowledge the interest that the consumer has, and referencing and acknowledging their vehicle and the evaluation that we gave to them.
Interesting. Enter Matt from Impel. Are you seeing big differences in lead response and conversion when you are that laser focused on the different lead source and responding to the lead source uniquely and differently?
Yeah, it's truly amazing, Sam. The transformation that has happened as we've introduced this agentic first response capability is meaningful across the dealership. When you look at the core sales AI platform that we deliver for lead nurturing, it was really honed and refined around internet purchase leads. You were on cars.com, you were on Auto Trader, you were on the dealer website, you wanted to buy a car. We focused the scripting around solving for that problem. The negative downside of that is every other lead type that came into the CRM got treated exactly the same way. So when we introduced agentic first response, the first thing we did is ask the question, well, how many lead sources are there? Well, surprisingly, 10,500 unique lead sources come into our system on a daily basis.
Wow. 10,500. That's insane. I mean, you can't train that with people, obviously, right? So
Yeah, how would you possibly?
500. You couldn't. Yeah.
So we did one thing first. We took those 10,500 sources and we broke them into primary categories, and we came up with 11 initial categories that those leads fell into. Marketplaces is the one I like to talk about. Jeremy's talking about digital retailing, another great one to talk about. But when you think about marketplaces, you could get a lead from Edmunds, and you could get a lead from OfferUp, and you could get a lead from Auto Trader. And the reality is we were really successful at handling those all the same way, but we're tremendously more successful when you reach out to that OfferUp customer with a subprime message, because that's the kind of buyer that lives on that site. And when you reach out to that Edmunds buyer, that's a high credit score. You can assume that in the initial response. So you're going to treat them entirely differently. So while the core internet lead bucket has seen some improvement, the leads that have really seen improvement are those longer tail leads, those instant cash offer leads, those trade pending leads, those digital retailing leads, because of exactly what Jeremy just said. You're meeting the customer and regurgitating back to them the context where they started the conversation, and they feel heard. In some of the categories, we've seen appointment rates go up more than 100% by making this small change.
Wow, that's interesting. And how long has this been in place where you've been able to have this laser focused type of, response to those 10,500 different lead sources across the different leads?
We introduced it as an early adopter program about 3 months ago, Sam. We've got quite a few dealers that are on it now on a hand raising or preferred customer basis. On December 8th, the feature goes generally availability. It'll be out there for anybody who's on our platform to take advantage of, and we're super excited about the transformation that's going to cause in the industry.
So do you sit down with Jeremy and say, hey, here's all the different leads, here's all the different digital lead providers that you have, here's the different sources, including, trade in the service drive, and then do you craft those individually with Jeremy, or does your system do that on its own, Matt?
We do it up front as a default starting point for the dealer so that people can onboard and start to use the system. But what we quickly learned is dealers want to personalize that and customize that for the unique source, not just for the source, but for their own dealership background and behaviors and policies. So the messaging actually becomes really tailored at an individual dealer level. And there's entire control to go in and do that. If you want to tailor all 10,500 leads, you can do that. If you want to keep them in buckets of leads, you can do that as well.
Interesting. So, Jeremy, where have you seen the biggest time savings now that AI is moving leads through the funnel on its own and you're not having to push it?
I think that first response is everything. So I think that's the biggest time saver. So one of the things we work with our people on is, as soon as a lead comes in, go look at the general note. If the general note that's pushed into the CRM has multiple layers, that means there's currently a conversation taking place before you even get your first response out. So educate yourself on how you're going to handle your next text, phone call, or email to be supportive of what conversation the AI is already having with that consumer.
And where do you go? So, all right, I pull up the lead in my CRM, whatever the CRM is. Where do I go to see that conversation so I'm fully up to date before I connect with that customer?
Yeah, it's right there in the notes and activity. And then there's also notifications that are sent to the salespeople that they can open up the link and read that conversation as well.
Interesting. And how do you manage and work with that, Jeremy? Are you training it as it goes? Like if it gives a response that's not quite what you want, or you need to tailor it a little bit, are you training it, or how does that, is it a two-way street there with the Agentic AI?
No, so just kind of the way Matt described it. There's a bunch of default ones, and then we use the term Rohrmanize, so we can Rohrmanize some of those first custom responses by source. So for myself, I worked with the team at Impel. We had a good 2-hour session where we just started going through these, and then we identified, well, maybe this source here doesn't really need to go to this journey. Let's go ahead and move it. So there were a few that we moved. And then there's the just mind blowing of like, wow, wait a minute, we can make so much more out of this. And then that's how we evolved into developing our own CTA and working with Impel and Trade Pending to drive that experience even further.
All right. We want to hear about the CTA, this call to action. We're going to get to that in just a moment. But this does spark a thought, Matt, in the world of agentic AI and technology and all that. There's probably some dealers that are less comfortable with it that'll just say, hey, Matt, put your tool in, make it happen, rock and roll. And then there's others who are more engaged like Jeremy, who will sit down with your teams for a few hours, go through and review this and make sure it's set up correctly. Speak to the importance of great preparation in advance so that you succeed and win later on down the road? Do you see differences in engagement with teams and then how that impacts success later on?
Yeah, of course, Sam. Like if you take something out of the box and turn it on, it's going to do work for you, but it's not going to do it in the context of who you are and what's my why buy here message and what's my why buy now message and how do I participate in my community and all of those things that make dealerships unique. So, of course, there's value when you initially turn it on, but our customers that really lean in and embrace making the AI a member of their team, they get the most out of the solution. Yeah, you got to think about it as a member of your team. You do Monday morning meetings to train your human staff on the things that are new or the things that are changing. That should be a regular process inside the dealership for your AI staff as well. And I think about it as an AI staff.
We've talked about that a lot on this show, is that you've got, as a general manager, almost a new addition to your job description, which is working with Agentic AI to make sure it's doing what you're doing. Jeremy, what insight would you provide to dealers or GMs watching about the importance of engaging with these tools so that it gets the result, almost like a BDC agent did in 10 years ago?
Well, I mean, number one, be present. Be present in the meeting with your performance managers. Don't blow off the performance manager. If you're going to launch a product that's going to drive the success of your store and also help to reduce the people count, you need to be involved with it and watch it all the way through. And I think that's where I'm fortunate is working with Ryan Rohrman. We have great training. We have great accountability. We continue ongoing training to drive the ultimate success of the organization. And I think that individual at the leadership level in the store should bring his management team into that conversation. And then what does the drive behind launching it to the sales floor look like? It can't just be, hey, we signed up with those Impel guys. Good luck. You're gonna have an AI assistant now. No, it needs to be a little bit more thorough in the sense of, hey, managers, you're gonna watch the dashboard. You're gonna manage the handoff. You're gonna look through some conversations to make sure that the AI is responding in an appropriate way. And then, what do our guardrails look like? Are there certain sources what we still want the people on the store level to handle, or do we want to just let Impel handle everything? And we only respond when we're notified to.
So how do you keep dealer oversight in place so that those AI agents don't go off script or off brand? What does your process look like for that?
Feedback is important, right? So when we launch the product, the one thing that we want to tell the folks is that if you see a response from the AI that you feel is not what we believe in or the direction that we believe that we should be going, let us know, because we're going to communicate that to our performance manager. And, I've seen other AIs in the world. So I can say that, initially there was a couple of things that I provided feedback on. Do I have it all the time now? No, I don't, because the AI has gotten more and more intelligent, and these guardrails are there for a reason. And Impel is very supportive in the sense of, if there's an issue, there is a team jumping on it. It's not going to, an email thread that somebody might answer it in 3 days. No, they raise the alarm to say, hey, there's a problem. Let's fix it. And I will say that Impel's different in the sense that most of my vendors that I meet with, and I meet with a lot of them, it's only one person typically. But with Impel, I have a weekly cadence call, and I have a team of 3 to 5 to 7 people that are sitting there in the room listening to what we're trying to do and how they can make us win.
Jeremy, hearing you talk, it occurs to me that people that may not understand Agentic AI and how these things work at the very beginning of the relationship might point to it and say, hey, it's not working. It's not doing what it's supposed to. It's actually harming our process. And with Agentic AI, it may not be the case. It may be a learning more than it is a result. Matt, is there anything you could talk to us about, or a warning to dealers or general managers? Hey, if you see something that's not answering the way you want it to, this is an education, just like a new employee. It's not a verdict of, therefore, it doesn't work, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, it's multifaceted, Sam. There's a huge component of it, which is what's the context for the dealer and the dealership where they are. And we only know that context through the engagement that the dealers provide to us. So you can't put this in and not adjust your processes. You need to know how you're going to integrate the AI to work with your people. And then you need to be dedicated to training that AI to talk in the language that you want it to talk in, whether that's using the agentic first response capability we've been talking about, or the core knowledge banks that power the AI brain that is serving all of the products that are in our suite. The other thing that our customers don't see is in the back end. I've got a team of 12 people that are sampling conversations from every one of our applications on a daily basis. And in that process, what they're looking for is, where did it go wrong? Because it does go wrong sometimes. It's not perfect, just like the humans aren't perfect. Unlike the humans, you can go back and you can trace back to where the error happened, and you can make an adjustment in the model so that error doesn't happen again. So every single week, I get a report from my team that shows the 10,000 conversations that they sampled across our platforms and the error rate by application type that occurred. And when you first launch products, the error rates are higher than you want them to be. But when they're ripe and mature the way they are now, I have error rates that are 0.0005%. Wow. It's pretty small.
So in a new relationship, when you go do an install, what does it look like in the first month or so, or 6 months? How long does it take before that error rate becomes as small as you just described?
Well, so the core error rate we've taken care of, that doesn't happen. Those error rates are things like not recognizing an intent to set an appointment. Maybe the machine didn't quite understand the way the human spoke about Tuesday afternoon when my dog's home from daycare or something. And so we got to figure out how do we teach it to know that means something. On the flip side of that, our best customers are participating in the tool on a regular basis because the marketplace changes. Yeah. A great example of this is when tariffs started back in January. We saw a 4,000% increase in questions about tariffs coming through our system over the span of 5 days. Mm-hmm. Well, in a legacy world, we would have had to go written code, create a new logic tree, created a new intent, and map to that, and then delivered content that was responsive to the question about tariffs. In this modern agentic world, within a couple of hours, we had preloaded a question into our knowledge bank and offered our customers recommended response to that particular question. So we could see, here's what the consumers are asking, and here's what we think is the best response to it. And then we were able to provide that to our dealers and say, do you want to tweak this or use it as it is? So this process is constant. You have to always be learning, and you have to be paying attention to the zeitgeist because things change in how customers are talking to you.
So, Matt, with agentic AI working the way it does, then are you able to glean buyer sentiment in a way in broader automotive that maybe we haven't had before? Like, are you able to see what is on customers' minds and kind of understand how buyer preferences are evolving and changing over time? Like, do you have that capability, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I love taking the content at scale and mining it for benchmarks and insights across the entire dealer body. Of course, you can do that. And in fact, we use AI to do that. It used to be I had a whole bunch of, data analysts and machine learning specialists that would take that content and would, spend weeks munging through and trying to build models that made ration out of it. Now I turn to my Impel Insights tool and I say, hey, here's a data set. Across this data set, stack rank the 10,500 lead sources by highest contribution margin to a dealership, or show me the lead types where the humans tend to take over more frequently than other lead types. You can ask it just about anything. And the more data sources you can plumb into it, the more interesting the responses become.
So, Jeremy, you've talked about how AI in your case has replaced a lot of headcount within the BDC. There are people within automotive that are terrified that AI is going to replace them one day. I don't think that's true. I think what it's going to do, I think customers are going to expect more out of us, more and more and more. And increasingly, we can't deliver as people without technology in the way the customer wants to be. Like, we can't have somebody respond to a text message at 2 a.m. or respond to an email at 3 a.m. Our people just can't work like that long. How do you communicate at the beginning inception of AI with your team so that you get buy-in? They see the vision and how it helps better deliver to the customer, instead of fearing for their jobs and fighting against it?
Yeah, well, I mean, good question. So I would say, with headcount, it's important to know that, those BD agents, I would love to have spread across every sales floor in the group because they work the CRM the best. They understand the CRM more than most. And so I think that they're growing their livelihood by transitioning from a role of a BD agent to an actual sales professional. And it's almost flawless the way that they can transition to that role. And if not, there's still that opportunity of moving into a service BDC role to manage the handoffs for the service AI. As for overall importance of it is, letting the sales folks know is, if you have a consumer that walks in the front door of the dealership, do you want a salesperson to help them or do you want a BD agent to help them? 10 out of 10 times I've asked that question. Everybody says, well, I want a salesperson to help them. And it's like, okay, great. So now we need to educate our frontline salespeople on how to become a digital showroom salesperson with the assistance of a virtual agent 100% of the time. And by doing that, again, you're now getting your best people in front of the area where the most consumers are at, which is your digital showroom. That's now 3/4 of our opportunity starts on the digital showroom. And the last thing you can have is you can't just have 4 to 5 BD agents, or even some stores with 1 to 2 BD agents working 300 leads a month. That it's just too much. And then it leads to bad consumer experience. And then they go shop elsewhere. So that's first way of identifying the problem. Now the training side of it, it's pretty easy. It really is.
So Jeremy, you talk about how to meld your employee staff into this AI world. And Matt, your world is the AI world, and it's melding the AI into the dealership staff. What are some concrete sales tasks, Matt, that AI agents are already executing end to end without human touching it every day or every step?
Think about
that are start to finish.
Yeah, the clearest one that's start to finish is service scheduling, Sam. So getting out of the front side of the business and into the back, customers can engage with an AI now and can go all the way down to booking the appointment right into the scheduling system. And that's pretty powerful if you think about the challenge in the service department when it comes to answering the phone and handling the inbound volume. It's 70% of your phone calls. If we can take care of that, that's amazing. And there's tremendous innovation that'll come in that space over the next 12 months. I couldn't be more excited about the things that are happening in that area. But even on the sales side of the house, Jeremy made a nod to it. You get 300 leads, you've got to work. A human can't possibly do that effectively. They get discouraged too quickly. And the reality is it takes 4 or more touches to get engagement back from that consumer. So if you're calling once in the morning, calling once in the afternoon, and trying again the next morning, you're not doing enough to get that consumer. So we monitor, how does behavior in the dealership change? We like to do process mapping before we get there and some blueprinting on how we think the processes need to work with the AI. And then we monitor things like, well, how many emails is the human sending? How many text messages are the humans sending? How many phone calls are the humans making? And no surprise, the number of emails and text messages that are being sent by the human is plummeting. But the number of quality phone calls that they're making, it's going up, because at the time it's ready for a phone call, it's been handed off to you from the AI to say, hey, Jeremy's now ready to hear from you. Pick up the phone and dial.
Yeah. So, Matt, Jeremy is far ahead some dealers. He's farther down the road with AI, with agentic AI than many are. What would you say to a dealer would be the first couple steps to implementing agentic AI into the CRM? What does mapping the journey look like? How do they make sure their culture is infused into it? What are those first few steps for somebody that's just not quite there yet?
Yeah, that's a fun question to answer, Sam, because it's going to depend on who the dealer is and what they're trying to accomplish. I think the easiest step for any dealer is agentic chat on your website. I'm so surprised by how few dealers are using an agentic chat system today. It's so powerful. We were working with a Ford dealer who took our agentic chat tool, and instead of the typical chat pop-up that you have that, drives the consumer crazy, he's replaced all of the calls to action through his website. And so when you hit on something that says, give me a price, well, it's not a form that you're sending off. It's an agentic chat window that pops up and starts qualifying you and trying to get contact information and help to generate a lead out of you. and delivering that into the CRM system as a new opportunity. So there's low-hanging fruit there that doesn't require a lot of infrastructure and integrations with partners. You can go do agentic chat today. Where I think it gets more interesting is thinking about what are my challenges on the service side of the business and the sales side of the business, and which one of those things do I want to tackle first? Yeah. Sales is where a lot of our customers go because the opportunity to nurture leads that are being neglected by the team is such a dramatic opportunity. And that becomes about training your team to understand the importance of allowing the AI to do its work, taking a step back and not interrupting the AI as soon as that lead comes in. Let the process run. Let the AI do what it's supposed to do, because at the end of that, as a salesperson, you get a much richer, much more qualified customer who wants to talk to you instead of a customer who's feeling hounded by you trying to get to them. So understanding that fit, I think, is important. So many dealers come and say, hey, yeah, I'm going to put AI in, but my humans are going to work all the leads during the day and AI is only going to work at night. And while I understand that sentiment, the reality is you're going to get a lot more out of it if you spend time teaching your team what AI is all about. You can go to RockEd. We provide free courses for the entire industry for people to go get certified in what AI is. Go become part of that. Let your team understand how it's working. Encourage them to do it, because they begin to then understand how it augments what they're doing and why it makes their job better.
So I think this is excellent advice on the education piece. What is RockEd? Where do you go to get these courses, and what are they?
Yeah, RockEd is a downloadable app. It's a automotive specific learning management platform that has these little short bite 2 to 5 minute educational classes that are interactive and video based. And, I love it because you can do it while you're walking across the street to the Starbucks, or while you're sitting, on point waiting for a walk-in to come into the store. It's just these little snippets that allow you to go and learn something along the way. And by the nature of the platform, it prompts you every couple days. Hey, Sam, you haven't checked in and done a course. Why don't you come do a quick 3-minute little lesson with us? So it's an easy way to get engaged. We think we've enabled anybody with a dealership domain name to be able to access that platform. But if somebody's working in this industry and can't get in and wants to, drop us a note. We'll make sure that your dealership domain gets whitelisted and you have full access for everybody on your staff.
That's a great takeaway from today's conversation. One I'll definitely take back to my team, because I do think the education piece is super important, right? If you don't have a Jeremy in the organization that is, a subject matter expert, that's a huge advocate for the technology and that's teaching people how to plug it in, it makes it tougher to embrace it. And then you get the disconnect, right? You get the, hey, it doesn't work. I'm proving it doesn't. When in fact, it's about the coaching. It's about the teaching. It's about making that agent, that AI agent as a GM, part of the team, which just sounds bizarre. It is the paradox and the paradigm shift of automotive for our day, Jeremy, right?
It is.
Which is interesting. All right, Matt, as we wrap up our conversation, fast forward a few years, what will feel completely outdated about how we run sales and service journeys today if dealers don't adapt? What are we doing today that'll just seem super outdated?
You know what we do today? We walk into the dealership and we flip on system 1, and then we flip on system 2, and then we flip on system 3, and we're doing little steps in each one of those systems as we go. Yeah. I believe that there is going to be an AI orchestration layer that sits on top of all of the software tools that you use, and you're going to be able to script that layer to do what you need to do. I was talking to this great guy named Calvin a few weeks ago at a Ford dealership down in California, and he literally has 10 different systems he has to go to in a sequential order to tee up his morning. So he gets to work 90 minutes before the shop opens so that he can go through all of those steps. Yeah. Imagine all the friction you could take out of the system if the agentic tools flipped on each one of those 10 systems and did that step for you, and instead surfaced in a single pane of glass all of the information that you needed from those 10 systems. That's where we're headed.
Does that capability almost exist today? It just needs to be honed and delivered, or is it a little bit of a people learning thing and acceptance and people embracing it, Matt?
It's more of a vendor ecosystem challenge, Sam, than anything else. Vendors are protective of their systems and have not warmed to the idea of letting a dealer's agentic staff use those tools the same way that a human would use those tools. That's going to have to change in this industry. Staying away from robotic process automation has been something that core systems have done now for a couple of decades. And I get it. Historically, RPA was used to scrape in rapid succession all of the information out of the systems, and that caused problems. When it's an RPA that's oriented around a agentic agent doing the same tasks that the humans do, those systems need to think about those staff members differently than the traditional RPA integrations that they're leery of or fearful of. So that's the education that has to happen. The vendors need to understand the importance of this to the dealers for operating their businesses, and that to be part of those ecosystems, they're going to have to learn to play with the AI agents that are doing the coordination work.
So, Matt, what message would you deliver to the industry with these different vendors, with all their disparate systems about coming together in the way you just described? Like, will it be an event, some sort of a catastrophe, crisis, some economic need? Like, it's a big hurdle getting everybody to drop their own interest and come together to work towards the one goal. What will it take?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We see it happening right now around consent management. We talked about that a little bit in the green room at the start of this call, right? The regulatory landscape is changing so quickly, and it is different on a state-by-state basis, that compliance becomes a challenge, and consent management will become part of that process. You're going to need, as a dealer, a single source of truth for what rights do I have to communicate with this customer. A lot of that's driven by the California laws, the GPC that they've enacted, and the impact that's going to have on privacy controls. But you can expect that same sort of blueprint is going to roll across all of the states. So just like that example for consent management, those types of regulatory changes and environmental changes are going to impact all of the vendors. And, somebody said this to me. People right now believe that data is the moat that protects their business. And so they're trying to keep people away from the data. Mm-hmm. And as I talk to more and more of the dealers and major dealer groups out there, what I hear is, no, in fact, data is what powers the AI. And I need to be working with vendors that are willing to make that data available to the AI that I'm using, so that I can be as good as I possibly can with my consumer in the moment that I'm out with that consumer. So dealers are going to ultimately drive this change. They have to. There will be vendors that choose to try to protect their data. I think they're dinosaurs. I think they're going to die as a result of that. Getting into a common orchestration environment is a place we all have to be.
Wow. That is a great vision of the future, and couldn't be said better. And it's interesting. It's the data problem that existed 10 years ago with fragmented data. And now it's bringing it together and getting everybody to work together is the North Star. So Impel, Matt Muilenburg, Jeremy Noling, Rohrman Auto Group, thank you both for being here to have this fascinating conversation to talk about all that Rohrman is doing to meet the needs of their individual customers using agentic AI and technology to deliver their best. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Awesome pleasure. Thank you, Sam. Great to see you again, Jeremy.
You too.